Great. So good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. If you are here, of course, good morning. My name is Mariana de la Roche. I'm the director of the Valid Ben. And today I have the fun task to explain you what we have been up to when it comes to regulation at the European level in 20 minutes. So I'm just going to jump in directly to it. So just a little bit of context. I think that it's important to understand why regulation is one of the key topics that we are seeing right now in the industry. Before all of this kind of like energy that we are putting on the regulation, what we have seen is that there was a lot of like projects that were launched in the different markets, whether you were in Europe, the US, or Asia. And the issue here is that if you were launched without a regulatory framework, you don't have legal certainty or clarity of what would happen in the future, which puts also investors in a difficult position because they really don't know what is going to happen in that particular region and if some of the projects are going to be delisted or are going to become illegal. So what we have seen in the past 5 years is that this is changing, and it also changed the mindset. It changed the mindset of the industry from we don't want to and we can be regulated to actually see regulation as something good that can bring more legitimacy to the industry, which at the same time supports the adoption. So let me tell you about what was happening in Europe before MiCA. MiCA is the marketing crypto assets regulation. And before MiCA, we had like MiFID, which was focusing on financial, or is focusing on financial instruments. It's also a directive, not a regulation, so it has different implications. We also have the EU securitization regulation, also for securities, and we have national jurisdictions. This creates a lot of difficulties for the projects in the European region, because basically, if you have a license in Germany, doesn't mean that you can operate in France. You will also need to go to France and get a license there. So we have like different kind of initiatives also going on and different regulations before MiCA. One of them was the DLT pilot regime, which was trying to create an environment where projects in the DLT market could go and taste their solutions in a safe environment. The DLT pilot regime is still ongoing. And we also have the transfer and fund regulation. This was really famous, so to speak, because it created some thresholds. So basically, if you do transactions over 1,000 euros, whether you do it in one time or cumulative, you will need to comply with TFR. This doesn't apply to peer-to-peer transactions, which means self-hosted wallets that are using between individuals are not covered in the transfer of funds regulation. So now MiCA comes into place, and MiCA creates like really different perception of what is going to happen in the European market. So first of all, it creates a taxonomy. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth into the taxonomy itself, but it also tells you like which entities are going to be part of this regulation. So who can issue stable coins or e-money tokens or asset reference tokens, and who can actually do the offering and how they can do it. And one important thing that MiCA leaves out of the regulation is NFTs, and like NFTs with an asterisk, and DeFi, as long as you are truly decentralized and not decentralized only by name. The reason of doing this too is because the regulator considered that was too early and it could block innovation. So they wanted to see more what was coming with the development in the industry and in the market before actually setting the rules. So now when it comes to MiCA, I told you about the taxonomy. There are like 3 tokens that are part of MiCA: asset reference tokens, e-money tokens, and utility tokens. And this is really, really important because it sets some rules. For example, what do you need to do and which licenses and requirements you will need to put in place in order to offer e-money tokens, and the same for asset reference tokens. There are some specific requirements that change according to the type of asset that you want to issue or offer. And this is really, really important because it's the first taxonomy that we will see at the European level when it comes to the difference between the tokens. I'm not going to go really into what is each of those, like you can see it on the slide. And yeah, this is like the main overview. What is important is that like MiCA, actually how it says here, it just like actually like brings more clarity into how it's going to work the European market. And more important, it actually helps the industry to operate in Europe as a unified market, right? Because like once you get a MiCA license, you can you can operate in the whole European market as long as you notified in which countries do you want to be. But this is not the only thing that is happening when it comes to regulation. I mean, like MiCA is the biggest one, but this presentation is not just about MiCA. We also have a couple of initiatives being negotiated right now: Project Liability Directive, the Payment Service Directive, PSD3. There's a lot of conversations about the digital euro, if you have been following. The Open Finance Framework, we also highlight the Payment Service Regulation, and there are some regulations that we are expecting to see, but they are not like in place yet, or they're not being negotiated. There's a lot of going on regarding the metaverse. There's a lot of initiatives about the virtual worlds. We already have the Data Act. This is really important when it comes to smart contracts. And now we are expecting, or we hope to see some smart contract standardization set of rules coming directly from the European institutions. We expect also to see something in regards to NFTs and DeFi. And when it comes to ASGs and sustainability requirements, this is one of the major areas. There is also already like some RTLs being discussed by the Commission to comply with the reporting of sustainability metrics by CASP, Crypto as a Service Providers. And this is one of the requirements for MiCA. So basically, we have like this said, that US innovates, China develops, and EU regulates. And we have something really important here that is the Brussels effect. So basically, what this means is that what we are seeing in Europe is most likely to be replicated in other regions. So it is like there's a lot of potential that we will see initiatives such as MiCA in other jurisdictions. This is kind of like a joke that we have in like the Brussels network. Basically, it was crypto winter, but it was the regulatory spring, because we saw like a proliferation on different regulations worldwide. So we have El Salvador, was a really interesting one because they made Bitcoin a legal tender. US, you have seen everything that is going on with the SEC and securities and the HOITES and everything that came out of that. Still discussions going on there. Dubai just published the DLT Foundation regime, which is actually intended to bring more projects into the industry. Qatar is also in the process of producing a regulatory framework for crypto assets, which is really interesting because it's focusing on tokenization, and they have a similar approach to Liechtenstein. And then we have Japan, who already has a similar regulation to MiCA since 2020. One of the things that I wanted to discuss today is the importance of this, like fostering dialogue between the industry and the regulator. Because if we want the regulator to come with rules that doesn't block innovation, they will need to understand what is it that they're regulated and how actually like the industry works and the technology works in order to be able to understand where regulation is needed. So I wanted to talk about what we are doing in Europe. I call it like the Watchdogs because these are like different associations, mostly at the European level. INATBA, which I'm also part of the board of directors of INATBA, is a global organization. We have the European Blockchain Association, the European Crypto Initiative, Blockchain for Europe, and the digital currencies as well. basically what we are doing is that we are like keeping an eye in absolutely everything that is going on, whether it's at the European level or the national level, and we as an industry come together and reply to the consultations of the regulator. ACPR is the banking authorities on France, and they have a huge consultation when it comes to DeFi, which we also reply with the industry, and the support of the GBBC and the EU BOF, which is the European Blockchain Observatory Forum, expert panels, and also INATBA members. And the Data Act open letter, you can Google it. This was a massive effort when it comes to the explanation that the industry did about what is the difference between smart contracts and other especially when it comes to access controls of smart contracts. This was a big, big, big debate we have there, which is really interesting to see because this might impact smart contracts that are deployed in the future. We also created a report where we promoted industry players to sit in roundtables with regulators to discuss different topics. This was the 4 topics that we discussed on the roundtables. One of them was self-hosted wallets and reusable KYC, especially when it comes to anti-money laundering and financial of terrorism prevention. And then we also have a discussion on NFTs and what is the potential of NFTs beyond art, so actually what is a non-fungible token. We have one on tokenization of the real economy, huge topic right now in Europe, one of the most proactive and actually advanced regulations that I have seen in Liechtenstein when it comes to this, because the transfer of the token actually means the transfer of the ownership of the real world asset, so I will really recommend you to take a look on that one. And then the cost of regulation from SMEs. This was also like a big discussion. It's like how innovation can block, how regulation can block innovation if it's not done accordingly to the needs of the industry. So one of the big things, oh, sorry, it looks so blurry, but you can also Google, this is public information. One of the things we did last year in November with INATBA, Blockchain for Europe, the European Blockchain Association, and the European Crypto Initiative was launch a manifesto. We did this in November in an event organized by the European Commission, by DG Grow. And the manifesto was our vision of blockchain in Europe. So basically, how blockchain can push forward European goals. And we identified 3 areas of prioritization. One was the unified market, the second one was the digital economy, and the third one was everything in regards to sustainability and social impact. And this is actually one of the topics that I'm going to discuss today, because I've been leading the sustainability and social impact efforts of INATBA for the past 4 years, and basically advocating for the use of blockchain for good. And one of the things that we also, that we are doing right now is the BC100+, which is also a big, big initiative that we have with the patronage of the UN, with the patronage actually of the 70 President of the United Nations General Assembly. And it's a reply to a call to action of how we can use technologies for good, how we can use blockchain to push forward the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals and the UN Charter value. So one of the things, we do a lot of things with the BC100+, but one of the things that I wanted to discuss with you today was the best in class, because we are bringing together not only blockchain projects working on sustainability and social impact, but blockchain projects that are developing solutions that might be useful for organizations in the development sector. So one example can be digital identities. I don't know if you have seen, but the UNHCR, which is the Refugee Office of the United Nations, is already playing or exploring, experimenting, whatever you want to call it, with digital identities. So what will be the potential of how digital identities would you have crisis where people is actually leaving their houses, no time to collect any certificate. If they have digital identities, they can, one, access to aid easily. It's easy to organize also for the UN how to distribute it, but also they can have credentials there, so when they come to a country that receives them, they can prove what they were doing before, who they were, and have all of their credentials connected to their identity. So the best in class is actually identifying projects that are already deployed that have certain level of maturity that can be used for others as examples to implement these solutions as well. So here there are like some of the criteria that we are looking and studying with the group. Blockchain, of course, needs to be vital to the use case. It needs to be beyond a pile of proof of concepts already commercialized. We know it's working, they're scaling. We want to see major private and public organizations involved because this also brings legitimacy. So for example, when you have the UN or when you have governments already implementing the solution like the European Blockchain Service Infrastructure, EPSI, already bring a level of trust, right? We also wanted to see that they have an active development team, and this is really, really important because this is actually what like proves that the project is being built and is growing. And then there are other set of requirements that are being studied by the steering committee group that leads this initiative to identify these projects. So I think that this was my last slide. No, well, of course, these are like some of the projects that we have already in the BC 100 Plus, so you can see some of them as you for sure know them. ReFi DAO is huge, at least in Europe, I guess they are also like here. United Nations Joint Staff Pension Fund, they are also implementing digital identities to manage the internal staff in the United Nations so they can have like easy access to the pension once they like have like the weeks or the time to be there. And we also have like projects like Demia. They are in the here in the US. They are working with like data traceability. Is a really interesting project if you want to take a look of them. So that's like different projects. Climate Change Coalition as well. That are part of this initiative. And basically, we come together to try to understand and present solutions that cannot be only replicated by the blockchain space and like the blockchain bubble, but actually can be deployed by organizations in the development sector and can make use of these tools to do what they do faster and more efficient, which at the end is what we are looking with the different initiatives that I presented, whether it's the European Manifesto, whether it's the BC 100 Plus, whether it's like all the regulatory efforts that we are putting in place are just with the aim of like supporting the blockchain ecosystem to scale. And we can only scale as big as our bubble. So of course, we need to break out that bubble and bring those that are outside of the blockchain space to actually understand what is the value of the technology and how they can use it for what they are already doing in their organizations. That was actually my last slide. So if you want more information, if you need anything, just you can send me an email. I'm going to also be here for the rest couple of days. So thank you very much.